All right, hey everyone. So it's that time of the year. We need to talk about the summative for geometry class. And so this link is going to help you get started, hopefully answers all your questions, and also talks about specifically what you are submitting to finish up the year for geometry. So the summative is going to be an escape room. It probably would have been a lot more fun in the classroom, but this is how we're going to do this. I'm going to cut down the workload a little bit. So this is the paper that you're going to see in the Schoology folder, and the goal is there are challenges A, B through H. I've cut some of them out for you. You need to complete 3 of the challenges for full credit for the summative. If you wanted to go above and beyond and complete more of them, that's fine. So I wanted to do directions so that you could hear me. I think it's a little bit easier. This is how we were used to explaining it in class anyway. So this is one of the papers I need back from you at the end. You're going to answer 3 of the challenges, and you'll see that some of these challenges aren't even offered online because I cut them out. We either didn't get to that material or I just cut them out. So you will see 5 challenges. You're going to see challenge A, which is on the distance formula. That's from the beginning of the year. That was chapter 1 for us. You're going to see challenge B, which is on parallel lines and transversals, as well as angles and triangles, and that was chapter 3, also in the beginning of the year. Next, you're going to see challenge C, which was similar triangles, and this was for us, this was chapter 6. This was right at the beginning of the school closure, so we learned it at school, and then you took the assessment online. I did not include challenge D. Challenge D is something we didn't get to that's not going to be offered. The next one that you'll see is challenge E. This is on chapter 8. We learned this remotely. It was the Pythagorean theorem, special right triangles, and trigonometry, so sine, cosine, and tangent. So that's challenge E. And then the last one is going to be challenge F, which is chapter 9, transformations. I have cut out the circles and also volume and surface area, things we didn't get to learn enough about. So you will not access G or H. Okay, so there are 5 challenges, challenge A, B, C, E, and F, and you're going to choose to complete 3 of them for full credit. This is going to be something you're submitting with your final answers, but I also need to see your work, whether you're writing, printing out what I'm going to give you, or you're going to do this on loose leaf. So each particular activity includes challenge puzzles, and it's going to reveal either a 3, 4, or 5 digit or letter code. And your goal is to crack each code, and then you escape the room. So you're going to submit your work 3 different times, okay? This is like submit as you go. You're going to pick your first challenge, whichever letter you prefer. You're going to do that challenge. You're submitting that to the first link called submission 1, and that will be due by June 2nd, which is a week from today. You're going to pick a different challenge, which is going to be your submission 2. You're going to include your work for that, and that's going to be due on June 3rd. And on June 4th, you're going to submit your 3rd and final submission for full credit, which would be the link called submission 3, and you'll see that's due on June 4th. So I'm going to walk through the directions on each thing, but just know that each challenge should take about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm asking you to do 3 for the whole year. And so, looking at an hour's worth of work, you do not need to do this all in one sitting. I wouldn't. I would take one challenge at a time and just I just think a little bit at a time is best. When you submit, what you're going to need to do your challenge, you're going to need pencils, scrap paper, and a calculator. You can use your notes. I'm asking you please not to work with other students. Do it with yourself. And in your submission, you should include obviously your work. This submission, this summative is based on your work. Correct answers matter, but I really want to see your thought process, and I'm giving a lot of credit heavy on that. So if you're not submitting your work, that's a problem. Your submission should include your work on loose leaf or printed out, and you should also include this half sheet here. Maybe you can highlight for me which challenge you did, and your final answer would obviously go in these boxes. I am going to include a link, and it is something that you could check your codes digitally if you wanted to, because again, final answers matter, but I care a lot heavy on the work that you submit. Another thing to know is the challenges are not linked together. So it doesn't matter what order you solve them in. You do not need to solve A, then B, then C. And if you don't solve one, it doesn't affect the other. So it's important that you know that. All right, so let's talk about each challenge. So again, this is being submitted. Let's move that out of the way. Here's your first challenge, okay? If you wanted to do challenge A, this is what it looks like. And you'll notice that there's a lot of empty squares. So you are going to have a second sheet of paper that looks like this. I'm gonna put it here at the bottom. The directions say that you need to find the distance between each pair of points given on the bottom right each edge of the puzzle piece. So if you look at A right here, these are your directions. This would be one problem, and here's another problem. Okay, move over to B. This is one problem, here's another problem. So there's a few problems in each. Here's another two problems. You got to take the distance for each set of coordinates. So like for this right-hand side, you're taking the distance. You got to look up the distance formula. You're doing that work. You're showing me your work for that. Over here, right, on the bottom, you're doing the distance formula. Same thing for the next row. You have two problems. You got to do the distance formula and do the distance formula again. We did an activity like this in class a few months ago. So basically, when you are laying this out in your answer key, if you can't find an answer to something like this in A over here, then that means that it's probably an edge piece. So your edges, you know, around the outside here, or maybe it's a corner piece. And so you have to cut these out, and you need to put them in the correct spot where they should go on here, or you can write in your letter. But I need to see your work. That's the most important thing. Okay, so that's what you're doing. If you look at the bottom, it says that you need to use the letters from the squares on the four corners. That's how you get your final answer. So let me highlight that. If you are looking for like a final answer down here after you did all your work, it's saying that you need to look at the four corners. So whatever you put here, 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 and here. And then also the middle square. These are your five that you care about. Whatever you have in those spots you're taking, and you're trying to create a 5-letter word. So part of the game that would happen in class, right? You're trying to shuffle the letters around, and you would put your 5-letter word, whatever those letters you think would equal, down here. Now again, I'm emphasizing this constantly. I'm more worried about your work than the cracking the code here, but a little bit more game-like. And so obviously getting these all in the right spot matter, but for your cracking the code, you care about whatever ends up in those 5 places. So that's challenge A. You'd have 2 papers. You'd have your answer sheet with the directions, and you have this that you need to either cut out or like put your letters in the right spot. You could do your work on the back, and you could submit that to me, or you could do it on loose leaf. So that is what the directions are for challenge A. If you did challenge A, you would come back to this. You'd write your work, you know, your code in here. And so moving on. The next one that you could do is challenge B. And this is on some different content. So it's only 1 page for B. So if you wanted to do B, you have 8 problems on this handout. You would do each problem. You have to set up your equation. This is on angles. So you're figuring out what the angle relationship is. Are you setting them equal to each other? If they're vertical, are you adding them up to 180? Do they equal 90? You know, based on what angle pair they are. So after you do all of these and you get your answers, let's just say you get x equals 4 somewhere, you would come over here and you'd shade whatever your answers are for 1 through 8, you shade in your answers. So this is saying that a number is going to appear here in a shading. So whatever your shading is, you should get the shading in the shape of a number. So say like 4 pops up, it says you're going to take 4 and now you're down to the 5th power. So I don't know if it's 4, but you know, whatever your number is, the shading, you take your calculator, raise it to the 5th power, and you're putting your answer here. You go back to your, can you escape the room? If you did B, you'd put your answers in for B. Okay, that's how you do B. All right, moving on, C. If you wanted to do C, what you need to do is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions on this one. For A, you are putting your answers across the row. That's what it says here. Your answers go across the row. You'll see that this one right here is shaded, which means that it must be just like a 2-digit number, and you write it across. Then you do B, and you write your answer across here. C is only 1 digit, so you're just writing it. D, 2 digits, you write it across the row. E is a 3-digit number, you write it across the row, and F as well. After you do all of these, you're going to get something that goes up and down. And it says the code is the quotient of the number created along the bolded column and 64. So quotient means divide, and when you do that, after you take your number dividing with 64, you get your answer here. So that's challenge C. Again, you'd go back to this handout, you'd write in challenge C. You have 2 more options. All right, E. We've definitely done something like this in class. compiling the year, another one of those practice activities. The major thing you need to know about this challenge is you have to start over here at D. That's what it says in the directions. That's your start box. You don't start anywhere else. That won't really work for you. All right, so when you start in the start box, you're going to follow along and figure out like where the next answer is. So either you're going 19.2 or 17.4, one of those are your answers, and whichever way that you go, you shade as you go. So if this was my answer, I shade and I go downwards. And then I have 3 choices, 12, 10 root 3, and 8 root 3, and you figure out where to go from there. When you get to the end box, you're done. So what the directions on this one says, how to crack the code after you do your work and show that, is that the code is the letters from the boxes that you didn't pass through. So say you have your whole maze shaded, it's whatever you didn't shade. And then you have to put those letters in alphabetical order, and you put that here at the bottom. And so that's how you're doing E. Again, you'd come back over here if you did E, and you'd write in your answer. All right, the last option for this is Challenge F. Challenge F was from Chapter 9, Translations. And what this is saying is that you need to answer each of these. So you might need some graph paper for this, or you can write out your own boxes, like your own coordinate. I think earlier in the year I had offered graph paper. Maybe you have some. If not, I'm fine if you just draw it out. We had rules for each of these transformations. You put your answers here in the box. So we had like reflections and translations and all of that symmetry stuff, and you can put your answers here. The final answer is saying that you are going to add, so you have an X column and a Y column. It's saying that you're adding all of the X's up together. You're adding that to half the sum of the Y. So you add up the Y, divide by 2, add it to the X's, and it's saying that there's a wheel involved. I already cut it out, but there were 2 wheels. Okay, you're gonna put one on top of the other, and it's just decoding. So like a letter matches up with a number. How do you know? It says on the directions right here that whatever your number is for when you do like your adding over here, add all the X columns up to half the Y columns, there's a number that you should get. So let's just say I'm gonna pick a number on here. Let's just say it's 13. I would make sure when I put this on top of each other like this, that the 13 lines up with the A. So now when I'm decoding the rest of this, it's saying that you should have 21. So I go look at where 21 is on the wheel, knowing that like whatever number I had to be lined up with A. It says find 21 right here, and it could be O. That's not the case. I'm not doing this correctly, but 21 would be O, and that would be the first thing to go in this space right here, and then you find the rest of the numbers. Then it says -1. So now go find 1 on this wheel. So I'm finding 1, and it would be D, and so on, and you can fill out the code. So I had to cut these out for this, and so my work had to be correct, or else I wouldn't be able to line up A with what it should be lined up with, which means then the rest of it would be wrong. Again, that's why I'm not focused so heavily. Obviously it matters, but not so focused on final answers. I want to see the work that led you to say, A should be whatever it is, and then your code comes from there. So those are your options. Kind of talked through all the options already. And the last thing that you should know is there is a code that I'm including in the directions page if you wanted to check your codes along the way. But otherwise, those are your options. I need to see your work. You are choosing. So you're choosing your challenges. You don't have to do all of them. If you wanted to do more, I included an extra submissions link. And so for that, you'll be able to go above and beyond, and that's the level 7-8. So today is Tuesday, May 26th, and this is going to be fully due at the end of next week, June 4th. All classwork, homework, everything missed needs to be made up by the 5th. That's when grades close. I hope this was helpful with directions. If you need anything, please just message me on Schoology, and good luck. You got this. Again, if you didn't like a certain chapter, it's avoidable here. So go with your strengths. You can do this. You have all the videos, and I will be on for office hours as promised at those times. If you need anything else, please reach out. Good luck. Talk to you soon.